Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Vetting America, episode 18. We are live at the Attic Cafe in downtown Tampa. I would like to thank our sponsors, Richard McIntyre of McIntyreFirm.com, Chris Chrismistos of Podfest.us, and of course the incredible Anthony Kovic of the Tampa Post. I'd like to thank and welcome our guest, Desheun Hines, former Sergeant of the United States Marine Corps, and current veteran academic advisor at the Hillsborough Community College here in Tampa, and one of my truest, greatest friends that I've made outside the Marine Corps. And thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure.
I really
my
appreciate you taking the time in your busy schedule, saving lives and doing things all the time. And so let's jump into it. You know, let's go right into your time in the Corps, because every time I get to interview Marines, I just need to know, you know.
Yes. Well, heck, I started in the Marine Corps in 2004. Ended up serving, I call it 8 years, 4 months, 27 days, and 6 hours. All the way down to the last minute, basically. And I ended up getting out of the Marine Corps, and I came down here to sunny Tampa because I got allergic to snow. At least that's the way I call it, because I hate the cold. But anyways, while I was in the Marine Corps, I made it up to the rank of sergeant, and I did a lot of construction. That's one of the great things I loved about my career was I got to fight for my country and do what I was passionate about, which was build things for a living. Very successful at it. Got a few awards and medals for doing that. But the most valuable thing that I got from the military and from my time of service was being able to mentor the young Marines, helping them grow, and being able to be the sergeant that I wish I would have had, so to speak, to some degree. But also to let them know that you can do it your way and be the big brother that the Marine Corps promotes being.
True,
so
true that.
That's the most valuable thing I got from it, and I do not regret it, not at all. If I can do it all over again, I probably will, but a different way. I'll just say it like that. I'll do it a different way.
I think I would have stayed in a little bit longer to go DI. I think that's about the only thing I would change.
Woo!
I like, if any of my Marines that watch, I yell all the time. That's all I did in the Marine Corps, was just yell all the time. You even we talked about our leadership styles. You were kind of more cool, calm, collected, and then once in a while you raise your voice and people would know you not to mess around. I just yelled all the time.
That guy. You were that guy, yes. Your voice probably started getting raspy and everything.
Yeah, yeah. What are some of the key lessons you picked up from your leaders? Because I know leadership's huge, especially as a veteran and a Marine. Leadership's everything. I know my leaders shaped me, good, bad, and indifferent.
Yes.
Talk to me a little bit about the leadership experience.
Oh, man, we can do like 2 hours on that by itself or nonstop. I learned a lot of good and bad lessons from my leaders, what to do and what not to do. I would say, of course, it helped to mold me into becoming the leader I want, because I experienced a lot of bad things. Some non-leading by example style of leaderships that
my favorite.
I'm firmly against. Let's see. I was one to where the Marine Corps has policies to where, and they try to promote an environment to where you are the big brother to the little brother.
Yes.
Right? And you mold your little brother in becoming a great Marine and a great leader someday, so that they can carry on the legacy. So some of the most valuable lessons that I learned was wrapped around one of my staff NCOs saying, be the leader you always wish you had, right? So I would constantly try to figure out what did I need as a young Marine that would help me get to where I wanted to go. What did I consistently did not like? And I wanted to make sure that everything that I would have my Marines do, I did first. I got yelled at quite a few times as a leader of Marines doing some of the grunt work, is what they call it, cleaning up the bathroom sometimes. And this is as a sergeant I was doing this stuff, right? Be out there painting, police calling and stuff, and they'd ask, why are you doing this? Why aren't they doing it? And I tell them, I want to know what it feels like. So that every time I send them out here to do it, I knew what they were going through, so that, one, there's no excuses, because I know what it's like to do that. But also, two, I know how far to take it. And, understand that they are dealing with some stresses in their lives that I have to be there to help them with those things too. But also, I wanted them to do some of the more important things. If they make me look good, I make them look good. Everybody's happy.
Yep.
So that's my philosophy.
A compassionate, empathetic leader in the Marine Corps. I don't think I've ever heard of that in my entire life.
Yes.
Mine was tough compassion. Tough compassion. Because, you were rewarded for doing what I asked and doing it well, and you were punished when you didn't. And I had a couple Marines tell me no in my career.
Brave souls.
Oh, they didn't have a good time after
Okay.
that. My one, I have this story where we had this new Marine in the shop, and he was 27, and I was 22. I was corporal.
Ah, you gotta love this.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And Andrew Youngcoons, he can attest to this, and I'll make sure he hears this story. But he came in one day, and he didn't have his pants bloused. He was wearing overalls, and he didn't have a
Okay.
blouse.
Got it.
And I said, Marine, why aren't your overalls bloused, knife hand? And
Gotta get a knife
and he
hand
goes,
in there. Yes.
he goes, I didn't know I needed to, Corporal. And all of my sergeants were in the room, and they all started laughing.
Wow.
And I turned bright red, and I said, what did you just say to me? I made his life a living hell for 6 months. I finally met his wife at the Marine Corps ball. She goes, is this the corporal I'm supposed to hate? Because he'd go home every night that I made his life miserable from that experience. Yeah, so I'm not too proud of that. But
it taught a lesson.
It did.
Right? A harsh lesson.
And he ended up becoming really close, and he ended up being one of my best Marines, and he was my pit bull corporal when I was a sergeant. So in the end, it all worked out. It all came out in the wash.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about your transition.
My transition, wow. I will say it was a struggle, and I learned so much in that process. I was lucky because at my very last duty station, I had a gunny who got there, and he had been out for about 2 years, and he came back in as a sergeant, and then made it up to
Gunny came back into a sergeant?
No. Well, he was a sergeant when he got out.
Oh, okay.
He got out for 2 years, and then he had to, when he came back in, he was still a sergeant, but he had to start from scratch. His score didn't count, all that crazy stuff. You know how that works. But I got to meet him when he picked up Gunny, and he knew that I was getting out because I had made up my mind. I'm stubborn in that aspect. If I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it. And I asked him. I said, I'm gonna get out. I got about maybe a year and a half. What can you tell me? Because he ended up coming back in, and he said, listen, I'm gonna tell you, it is a different animal. He said, you have all this confidence. You're great at what you do. You're a Marine. You're a leader, so on and so forth. He said, you have those skills, but when you get out, you're gonna get to a moment where it appears like nothing you did in the Marine Corps matters. You are at the bottom of the food chain, and he said if you allow your pride to consume you, you will either come back or you become one of the 22. He kept it real. And
I never heard a Marine explain it like that, or a veteran explain it like that, and I don't think that there's a better way you can explain it.
No, he kept it real. So he told me, he said, the best thing you can try to do is start transitioning now. And I didn't fully understand it, and he didn't fully understand either, but he told me about all his struggles. So what I ended up doing, I was lucky enough to do this, and at the same time, it was a big battle because I had to start learning how to change the way I spoke, because you know how we talk as Marines, right? I had to start working on my attitude, my leadership style, because I knew that I can't lead the same way in the Marine Corps. I'm sure you know that.
I learned that the hard way in school.
Yeah.
Coming out there knife-handed 19-year-olds.
I came this close a few times. I'll tell you about it in a moment. But in essence, I learned a lot of things. So I got to a point where I went through the TAPS class, and I'm not gonna bite my tongue. It was horrible.
Yes.
It did nothing for me.
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. The only thing it did do was confuse me and anger me even more.
Leadership Scholar Program. TAPS got me introduced to Leadership Scholar Program, and because of that, it's the only reason I got into UT. So for that, I am so grateful.
Yes.
But that week, I would rather have been working on my aircraft than sitting in that classroom.
Yeah, that 2 weeks thing. And so I got lucky. Like I said, I do have a philosophy behind it. My philosophy is, and I think to kind of solve this problem, once I realized I was getting out and I actually finally got out of the Marine Corps, I knew I had a decision to make, and I remember what my gunny had told me. So what I ended up doing was I tried to do what I call the reverse boot camp, right? So when you went to boot camp, you know this, you got put on an island, you're surrounded by nothing but Marines, right? Nothing but either former or active duty service members, whether it's your doctors were in the military, people who served at Chow Hall, prior military or in the military, the people cleaning up outside, prior military or currently in the military, right? So nothing but that, so that you can become an actual Marine, immersed in it. That's why there was one of the young ladies that I work with. She said, when you walk into our office, right, we share a space with financial aid. So she said, we have the first hallway after you get into the big office, the first hallway, and then you come straight ahead to go to financial aid. It's roughly about maybe a 5-second window between the moment they open the door till they get to our hallway or decide to move forward. And she said, every time somebody opens up that door, I can tell if they're going to go down that hallway or come up here to us, right? And that speaks to the mindset and how we carry ourselves. She knows who the veterans are. So I knew I had to get out of that and become an actual, like the civilians, if I wanted to become one, because to be a Marine, I had to learn how to become a Marine.
Wow.
Right? So I decided when I got out, it was a hard decision, but I had to say I got to stay away from all military as much as I can, because if I want to actually transition, I need to learn how to be a civilian.
I did the same thing.
And I swallowed my pride. I went and started hanging around nothing but civilians. I was blessed. I call it blessed, and I'm going to stick to it, that I was able to meet Andy Gold and Beth Curley in my second semester in college. And what I did was, just like in the Marine Corps, you found that drill instructor, you did everything he told you to do. What did he tell you to do? How? You mimic his walk, his talk, his attitude, right? They know you are his kid because you act just like him for drill instructors. So I treated him as such. He didn't know I was doing it. I was watching him every step of the way, and I stuck by him like white on rice. Basically, I was held on to him, and I looked at his mannerisms, the way he spoke, how he handled confrontation, how he handled business, negotiations, all that stuff, to see how I need to perform when I'm in those scenarios, whether it's angry, happy, sad, negotiating, business, whatever the case was. And for, I would say, at least a good 4 months, I did that with him. And because of that, I started learning things about my facial features, like not smiling or smiling. It looked fake and sadistic because a Marine smiling was like, whoa.
You're supposed to smile with your eyes there.
Basically, yeah, I didn't know this stuff. And I was like, how does he get that response? And I learned that, right? The way he carried himself when he's sitting in front of people, when he walks
real
into
relaxed,
a room, right?
Yeah, makes you feel comfortable.
Absolutely. And he told me something very valuable. He said, listen, he said, anybody can wear a suit. However, if you want to look like you belong in a suit, you have to get used to wearing it, right? So I started, dressing more professional, all this stuff. Like, it's a long story. I don't want to go too much in depth.
I'm there with you. I'm there with you.
But my transition, my mindset was one of the things I realized I had to change.
Absolutely.
Right? Because like I mentioned, I had that confidence, that pride, and feeling like you owed me something.
Entitlement.
I felt like you owed me something, and at the same time, I realized, like I said, my gunny told me, he said, you better get rid of that.
Yes.
Or you're going to fall. And when I first got out, I didn't notice it. Around 3 months after I got out, it hit me hard.
They say they call it transitional depression. It takes about 3 months before, when the honeymoon is over, where you're dancing for 3 months, you got your DD-214, and all of a sudden it hits you. I got to actually go and do stuff now, and nobody's here telling me to do anything.
Yes. Yeah, that was hard.
That was very hard.
Even though you're a leader in the Marine Corps, you still, to some degree, have to get permission.
So what were some of the trials and tribulations you had to deal with, specifically speaking, transitioning?
To be honest with you, making my own decisions.
Yep.
Realizing that my housing wasn't promised, my food wasn't promised. Realizing that I had nowhere to go if I failed. This was it. And understanding that my life in the Marine Corps was over. Right, that was gone.
That was
hard
to swallow.
It was a hard pill to swallow. Like I said, I wanted to get out, and I knew I could do better. But in the Marine Corps, you can always refer back to the barracks, revert to the chow hall. Right, knowing that those basic needs are gone, that's another level of stress.
Yes.
That's added on to you, and not to mention, they train you to be a perfectionist in school. So me getting a bad grade was like, oh my God, somebody's gonna yell at me now.
I know. I know.
I mean, even as a leader of Marines, you still got that in there. And, at the same time, it was a little bit depressing realizing that I have all this leadership experience, all this skills, but it meant nothing out here. It meant nothing. That was hard.
I kind of understood it in college. It really didn't matter. But where that hit me and what really messed me up was in my tax accounting internships. And that's when where it hit you in 3 months, it took me 3.5 years.
Really?
And then all of a sudden I came to the conclusion, nobody cares about me. Yeah. Nobody cares if I'm successful. They just want me to literally punch the clock, do my work, and go home.
What can you do for me?
What can you do for me? And so I already graduated. I had done 2 internships. I've started a couple businesses. And all of a sudden I go, I hate everything. And so it's funny hearing the story coming from your end, because you're explaining a lot of what I went through, but I didn't realize that's what I was doing, because everything in I is just emotion. I'm just a giant ball of emotion and passion and energy. So I was bitter when I got out. I wanted nothing to do with the government. I wanted nothing to do with the veterans. I wanted nothing to do with anything that had to do with the military because of how poorly I felt they treated me because of entitlement and expectation of reciprocity and never getting that in the Marine Corps. Shouldn't have had any expectations, but I had all of them.
You sure we're not the same person?
I already told you.
I know we look alike, but okay. All right, yeah, go ahead.
And so for me, I think in order for me to adopt that mindset is I had to get emotional about it and actually get angry. You were able to go, you know what? This is what I need to do and this is what I'm going to do it. I had to almost trick my subconscious to push myself away from all that, to learn the lessons, to finally come back to the veteran space and realize if I would have just immersed myself in the veteran space from the beginning, I probably wouldn't have gone through the trials and tribulations I went through. But without those, I don't think I could help as many people as I've helped. So it's just, it all comes right back.
Absolutely. Well, my thing is you can't, we have to understand each other, right? Civilians and veterans and whatnot, and we have to learn.
We don't do enough. I don't think we do enough of trying to bring the two communities together and educate each other.
It's hard. One of the issues that I ran into when I got out was, in my process of trying to help veterans understand that they have to learn how to become a civilian, there was backlash. I got a lot of backlash from my fellow veterans. They were hard, like strongly against that, but they were the same ones that seemed like they were still trying to hold on to that past life. And I'm a realist, and I realized, like, I compared it to holding on to a balloon that's strong enough to lift you up in the air, right? That your military life is gone, right? You're holding on to that balloon. You can either let go at the very beginning and realize, hey, I'm not going to hold on, I'm letting it go, and I'm going to start my new life here. But most of us, we tend to hold on a little bit. But the longer you hold on to that balloon, the higher you're going to get and the harder that fall is going to be. And eventually, like, the sad truth is you're going to get to a point of no return.
Yep.
And once you reach that threshold, right, either you're going to get seriously hurt when you hit the ground, which is why a lot of vets end up in therapy, or they end up in a scenario where they hospitalized or whatever the case is, or you keep holding on to where eventually that balloon's going to pop because it's into the atmosphere and the inevitable is going to.
We do denial's huge in the military.
Yes. I would say part of the biggest thing that I enjoy, because hopefully we're definitely going to get to talk about like the positive sides about all this.
Oh, yeah.
Was there was about a year ago, after I had pretty much transitioned, because you already know this, I'm sure you guys don't know, when most people find out I'm in the military, they always start out with Coast Guard, Air Force, Navy, and then they say, Army? And I said, nope. They say you weren't a Marine, right? I always get that.
He's the happiest person I ever met.
Because, and it used to be, if you talk to some of my old Marines, they'll probably tell you, and you're probably going to laugh at it, one of them, I'm sure he was going to watch this, that the only time I used to smile was when I was about to cause pain and torture. And it was a good smile, too, and they hated it. They couldn't stand it.
Uh-oh, he's coming.
He was like, I didn't know that until I got out. He was like, he's a sergeant, I'm going to tell you. I see the pictures of you smiling, and it still brings chills. I said, why do you say that? Like, is it that bad? He was like, man, because the only time you smiled at us was when we were about to punish us. And I was like, oh, man, I felt so bad. But I had to learn how to genuinely smile. But I was at this event. It was a networking event. I was invited to it by a guy. I could mention name. I don't want to do like any plugs and stuff like that. But I was invited to an event, and he wanted me to come because he saw my transition. He heard my story. He knew that where I'd come, and he was so impressed by it. He said, you can help some of these guys that are coming. Most of the people in his groups were older vets, right? Or not older vets, or active duty, but they were older, like the sergeant majors of the world, master sergeant, stuff like that, right? Colonels, whatever the case is. And he really wanted me to meet this one Marine. He was a sergeant major. He wanted me to so badly.
They're so interesting. They're the most interesting characters.
He was, and he didn't have the courage to tell him the truth because that fear of the retaliation. And he knew me.
Still there.
He knew I didn't bite my tongue. I'm comfortable with who I am. You either take it or you don't, right? So he didn't say this he didn't tell me this until after I had already met the guy. But just lo and behold, I gravitated towards the guy because for Marine, I wanted listen to a story that he was very outspoken guy, you know the
sergeant major, yeah.
And he's just confident, and I'm just sitting there drinking my tea and stuff, and I'm listening to him, I'm getting out. I got about a year. I'm just fine, I'm got this, and he would just blow me, and I'm just sitting there, and I was so sad. I was so sad, and he was there with a colonel, and they were friends, and the colonel didn't have the heart to tell him either. So, and lo and behold, the guy came over, and he was like, hey. So Desheun, I got a question. If there was any advice you can give, what would you say to him? I said, I don't think he can handle this. I don't think he can handle the truth. just like that, and I just stopped. I didn't say anything else.
Was he in ear distance?
Oh yeah, he was right next to me. I mean, him too. And he was like, "Really, double dog? What were you?" I said, "Oh, I was a sergeant, sergeant major." And he was like, "Oh, ha, ha." He was like, "Well," his colonel friend was like, "Just entertain him then." I said, "Sergeant major," I said, "with all due respect, when you get out in a year because you're retiring," I said, "it's going to mean absolutely nothing to these people out here. They can care less." I said, "If you don't have a job lined up, which it sounded like you didn't," I said, "you have a rude awakening coming." And I said, if you don't get rid of that pride, and if you don't get rid of that self-entitlement of thinking that the world's going to bow down to you, if you don't realize that you're going to get to a point where you're going to walk into a room and nobody cares, it's going to either break you or it's going to make you. And if you don't let that go, you're going to end up part of the 22. And I said, you can take it as just coming from a sergeant, somebody less ranked than you, but I successfully transitioned, my friend. I said, so take it from somebody who's been there and who's made it through. And I really hope that you accept this. And I left it just like that. Because the last thing I wanted to do was see him being part of the 22, man. Like,
no
that's
way,
the
man.
Saddest thing.
It keeps happening. It's happening every week, every day.
If I had a chance, because I had the opportunity to try to help him, I had to take it.
You did.
And
you did.
Luckily, he seemed appreciative of it because he didn't scold or say anything. He just was like,
no one's ever talked to him real because he's always had that rank.
Yeah, I guess so. And yeah, I was out, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, what are you gonna make me do push-ups?
Yeah. I'm gonna go home. Actually, I was thinking.
I'll go haze myself, Sergeant Major.
No. Yeah, by sitting on the beach, but yeah.
I see your Facebook videos all the time. I'm like, dang, man.
I'm gonna tell you. To be honest with you, once I got to a point where I realized that, I had to change my mind. I realized that, hey, what am I willing to do to get to where I needed to go? Right? That was my wake-up call.
Huge.
That was my turning point.
It's big.
And that's what I tend to try to spread and pass along to folks, because you got to live your own life.
You know what question I posed to myself? Because I was going through one of my crazy episodes and just mania, and I was all over the place, freaking out. And I said, okay, enough's enough. Because I actually get annoyed with myself a lot in my life. I mean, so I can only imagine the people I've surrounded myself with, how annoying I've been at times. But I literally said, okay, Adam, enough's enough.
Yeah.
Obviously, this isn't sustainable. What is it that you really want to do? I have to talk to myself like this. Really want to do to the most basic level. And I said, every time I go on vacation, I have great conversations with people, and I've been told I change people's lives. And that brings me so much joy. And I reach a higher level of self-growth and development because I'm helping these people.
Yes.
I said, I want to travel the country talking to people and getting paid to do it. I don't know how, but that's what I'm going to do. And that was the first step to taking control of my life and chasing my dreams. A lot of people can't go after what they truly love to do because they feel that there's no way they can create a career around it. But the only thing you should create a career around is what you love to do, what sets you on fire. It doesn't matter how crazy or out of this world or out of left field. If it sets you on fire every single day you wake up and you are giddy about what's happening in your life, you're good.
You got to do what you
love. And
there it is.
How much did you know about service before getting out of the Marine Corps? Because everything was voluntold, we're always forced to do stuff.
Basically.
And until I actually started serving the community again, that's where I felt camaraderie and purpose. And I think a lot of veterans, when we push ourselves away from it all, we push ourselves away from that natural tendency to serve. And from that we don't have purpose. And from that, we go into a rabbit hole.
Listen to this man. I'm telling you, I'm going to tell you, purpose is everything, right? And I think that's why we tend to go in our depression when we get out, because we no longer have that purpose, right? Even though we may hate our jobs when we're in the military, we get up every day and know that we have a purpose to do, right? Even on our worst days, we'll look at that uniform knowing I got to put that on, and I'm a Marine. I'm a soldier. I'm
right
an
here,
airman,
man.
Right? It's right there.
I still look down every once in a while and I go, that's still me. It's branded.
Absolutely.
It's branded on my heart.
Right? It's like that purpose, right? So in essence, what I try to encourage other vets to realize is that we are special and we are unique, right? Even if people don't tell it to us, we are special and we're unique.
That's what Mom tells me, at least.
We've been, that would say, be honest with you, I even though I talk a lot of trash about my brethren from all the other branches, I do absolutely have to do it. I respect everybody who wore the uniform.
Every single person.
Especially, the folks who go through now, right, and who've been through, especially after 9/11, because if you join the fight in the military during the time of war, you are taking the risk. I don't care what branch you go in or whatever case.
Yes.
Right? You're taking a risk because at any moment you can lose your life. So anybody who served, that's something special. And when you go through boot camp and some of the lessons you learn while in the military, you can do anything you set your mind to, right? So a lot of times when we get out, we forget that.
Yes.
Right? We forget that we are those special people. And sometimes we try to hold on to that, not realizing we can still do that out here, just in a different way.
I think it's the fact that we're pack animals. We're programmed to be.
Absolutely.
And then we get out and we're that lone wolf. And we don't have the support of all those other wolves around us to make us remind us that we're a wolf. Yeah. So then we actually tend to become a sheep, and we don't even know. Because on the outside, we're a veteran, we're even in the military, we're a wolf, but on the inside, we're scared.
Yes.
And because we don't know how to deal with our emotions, and we don't talk about our feelings, and we don't, that stigma is what's poisoning veteran souls and what is causing 22 a day.
You know what, you asked me earlier, talk about the harshness of my transition. I'm going to tell you, people see me now, and I have no problem letting them know. I went to counseling. Absolutely. Occasionally, I still go, right? And the reason for that is sometimes you got to get that stuff out, right? There's a stigma to where when we go to counseling, we feel like we're sick, we're weak, right? And we're trained never show any weakness.
Never.
Right? Never show anything that the enemy can see. And
if you don't know something, don't tell them you don't know something. Make it up.
Yeah. I heard that. I'm like, no, I don't know. Teach me. Yeah. I'm gonna tell you, like, I run into them all the time, and every now and again when I'm there, and I'm so proud of this. Believe it or not, I'm so proud that when I go to these, when I go to the clinic every now and again, I'll run into another veteran. I'm glad they can see me there because I'm the guy they think, hey, he got it all together, right? And I remind them, I say, I got it all together because I come and get help. Right, I don't do it by myself. I'm not here alone in this. So true. And that's something that I was too proud to admit when I was in the military. Right, but I get help when I can, and I learn from the people around me, man. I learn a lot from you.
I learn a lot from you.
A lot. I mean, just simply being around, something. I don't know it all, but if I can learn it from you, I can help somebody else with it. Right.
That's the whole idea. What's the what's the harm in listening to somebody and digesting their wisdom and taking the nuggets that you need and then putting it to your arsenal? And what I have to say, seriously, I wanted to make a public announcement of how thankful I am to have met you. We actually met in marketing class at the University of Tampa. We never even had a conversation, but we always shared the same energy. We didn't even know we were both Marines. Well, he knew I was a Marine because all I did was talk and tell everybody, and he was in the background just being awesome like he is. But I ended up going to HCC when I had first started this journey, and I walked up to Desheun and I go, dude, I don't know what I'm doing. I need help. And he was there. And from there, he introduced me to Andy Gold, which introduced me to Beth Curley, which introduced me to Operation Startup, which introduced me to Vet Symposium. And since that day, since I walked to him and asked him for help, everything changed. And that's why I knew you are what veterans need, especially in education.
I appreciate
that.
Now,
working off of that,
we
did meet in college. How important was higher education and the use of your GI Bill in your transition and in the success you're starting to realize today?
Oh, my goodness. First off, I want to make sure it's clear that Adam is where he is because he put action behind the knowledge, okay? One of my quotes is, knowledge is only powerful when it's put to use. He put the knowledge to use, he did something with it, and that's why he is this. So I want to make sure that is clear. I am not going to take credit for his work. I don't care how much he says, he's grateful. But no, education, and that leads to education, that's what I believe. I think is very important, not just for the degree purpose in regards to college and veterans, right? There's a lot of lessons that books can't teach you. Right? It can't. And I learned how to become a transition veteran by going to college, being around a lot of these quote-unquote kids, right? Having to work with them in groups. Was it testing? Absolutely. I had to get to a point where I had to, it's testing. You hear their opinions. A lot of them will definitely tell you how they feel about the military. They can't stand it. They'll tell you about every person who carries a weapon, how they feel about them, and you can't react the same way. You can't take them to the tree line. You cannot take them to the tree line. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
believe it or not, that's when I realized I had transitioned. I was sitting in class, ethics class, believe it or not. And
a class?
I was in class.
How to be a good human being. Okay.
Yes, and there was a young lady sitting right next to me. I'm not going to tell you the full story because I don't want to incriminate myself, but she was sitting right next to me as the teacher, because as a veteran, the other veterans in the room, he asked her what she felt about the war and about and stuff like that, and she just went on a tear, right? They're all killers. and they're evil people. They go around bullying other countries, and they just take stuff and yada yada, just going on this tirade right next to me. She had no idea I'm a veteran. Oh. Right next to me though, because I didn't walk around the Marine Corps backpack and all that stuff. And you know, I was dressed like this when I was in school, so I didn't have the bandanas on and the shirt that says "I am a Marine, hear me roar" type thing, right? So I'm sitting there, and I waited till she finished, and the teacher knew. He's like, "Oh, this is gonna be good." Because I'm right next to her. He said, "So, Desheun, you have anything to say about?" Like, she just went on a tear, and I had I didn't realize after the class, but I'll tell you the end result. But anyways, so he asked me, what did I think about what she said? And he was like, "'Cause you're a veteran, right?" And I said, "I am." And she's just like, "Okay." Geez. So she leaned up against the wall. She's against the wall because I'm sitting right next to her. And I said, you know, I do respect her opinion. And I turned and looked at her, and I said, well, listen, because like I said, she mentioned about weapons and all this crazy stuff. And without incriminating myself, I told her something along the lines of, like, if you feel that everybody who has a weapon is supposed to kill you, then you would have been dead already. Because you walked around people consistently, sat in classes with people consistently who had weapons on them, but yet you're still alive here. I said, you sat next to a veteran for the past few months now already, and yet here you are, right? I said, I understand you feel that way because you've been led to by various avenues of your knowledge, whatever the case is, but you should appreciate them because they volunteered so that a draft wouldn't have to be implemented and you were forced to do something you didn't want to. And I did share a story that is heartbreaking, and it's one of the worst stories I've ever had to experience. When I first got to Iraq, I was only there for about 2 weeks, and I ran into a buddy of mine who had been there, and it looks like his soul was taken out of him. He was a very happy guy, even as a Marine. It was hard to believe. Positive guy, but he was
the Corps found some way to take it from him.
It wasn't even the Corps. It was his experience over there. He had gotten to a point where there was he had accidentally caused one of the women to break customs, right? A general custom such as just simply shaking his hand without permission. Oh, and she did not make it. Let's just say it like that. And that broke him because he couldn't do anything about it. Oh. And I shared that with her. I said, you have people who want to come and control this country to do something like that, to where you as a woman don't have a right to speak your mind. I said, but we volunteer to fight and sacrifice our lives so that you never have to experience or hear these kind of stories. And when I said that to her, you know, she was like, I can't believe that that's really going on. I said, that happens every day still to this day, but you don't see that on the news because it's too graphic for you to understand. I said, so you should appreciate us who do volunteer to do that so you don't have to. And she was great. She didn't see it in front of the class, absolutely not, but she was grateful for that. So I say that to say this to a lot of the veterans out there who tend to get very upset and want to choke out everybody in class. Because I want to choke her. Yes, I did. But I can't. You know, you can't do that. But we should use what we know to educate, not to belittle or segregate ourselves from them.
Bridge the gaps.
Yeah, bridge the gap. I think if we educate them on what we've been through and why we do what we do, right? Why we volunteered to fight so that we can preserve the American freedoms, no matter what people think about it. I think that can definitely make a big difference. And I constantly help educate my colleagues. That's one thing I love about HEC. I want to say that, yes, I'm an academic advisor at HEC, and I want people to know
Hillsborough
that
Community College here in Tampa.
Yes, here in Tampa. I love HEC, Hillsborough Community College, because they not only accept veterans money, but they take the initiative to try to help veterans to transition while in school. Right? They take the initiative to try to make changes. They listen to people like me when I was a student, Veterans Club president, and now somebody who works there. And they listen to Tim Arrington. That's my boy. I love you, even though he's a soldier in the Army. I'm not holding that against him. But we have to talk. Well,
now he can't respond, so it's even better.
He can't respond to this. So I'm so glad about that. But no, like, I have the utmost respect for him because they constantly go to him for advice on how to help veterans at HEC, and he lets them know without biting his tongue, this is what you're doing wrong, this is what you're doing right. And they listen, and they make the changes, right? We now have a veterans club, a veterans lounge, because we need a space to come sometimes and be ourselves, because we can't be we're a very unpolitically correct people.
Crowd, yes.
Right? When put our mouths to say certain, and they gave us a lounge so that we can have the freedom to have these discussions, to get this stuff out, to talk to our fellow brethren, and be able to counsel each other because we have a hard time going to people who never served.
Okay.
And because of that, that's already began to make an impact. And we just opened it over the summer. Haven't even had the grand opening yet, and it's already started making an impact.
Good.
You know what I mean?
Good.
Not to mention we have a flat screen TV in there with some PS4s, but that's neither here nor there. We have a space that can do this. So I will say I love HEC for that.
I know you want to go more positive because there has been some negative here, but the reason I'm not so much about the negative, I don't even want to call it that. It's the real.
Yes.
And I've had a lot of interviews talking about positive, but some negative stuff, but
Absolutely.
I know your story, and I know the details to it, and it helped me, and it brought perspective to me, and that's what I wanted to bring to the audience today is perspective.
Absolutely.
So you crushed it in college. You won't admit it because you're humble, but this dude was like, he was student of the year at HCC, and then he went to the University of Tampa and was student of the year at HCC in Tampa. You graduate like a 3.95 or something GPA. Maybe had one bad grade. I mean, I'm telling you, no, but he works his butt off, and he's just super intelligent, and he tries his hardest at every turn, and he earned everything he's gotten. But you still had post-educational employment struggles.
Absolutely.
So talk a little bit about so that those veterans that are still transitioning, that are still having a hard time finding jobs, give them some perspective that, again, for some reason, it just doesn't matter. You just have to pay it. Because that was hard for me, man. I went on this journey. A big reason I went on this journey was I didn't want to work 2,000 hours, 2,500 hours a year for $35,000. I did that in the Marine Corps for 5 years. So I ended up sacrificing that much money to try to not only find my purpose, but put myself in an income bracket that I felt is where I wanted to be when I was living my life out here in the civilian world.
Yes.
It took you, what, 7 months to find a job after everything?
Woo. Roughly, yes. To try to put things in perspective, yes, it took me that long. It took me quite a while to find employment. Part of it was me waiting on the right opportunity, so to speak, because I'm the kind of guy, and I have to practice what I preach. And I'm all about purpose, right? And doing something you enjoy doing and what you love doing, because no matter how much you make, if you're happy doing what you do every day, you can be not only productive, but the money will come later.
And you'll have the energy to pursue other passions.
Absolutely. So when I first got out, it was definitely a struggle. With all that great success, I kept being told, you don't have the civilian experience, right? And that is like a crusher, right? Luckily, I was told that prior to, but of course, I had to go for the high-level jobs first because I want to be up there telling people what to do. But at the same time, I needed that experience of knowing how to lead civilians. And I'm gonna tell you, that's important. A lot of veterans hear that and they get so upset. But I had a buddy of mine who, he got out well before I did, and I learned a lot from him in his life. I won't mention his name because I don't want to embarrass him a little bit because he may be embarrassed about the story, but he used to call me consistently and tell me about his struggles, about him leading other people, and he got let go because he was leading them too harshly. He was leading them according to the Marine Corps, right? And he couldn't do it. So I knew I had to learn how to lead the civilian way. And luckily, UT taught me that. That is, I'll tell you, I really appreciate University of Tampa for the group projects, even though it kind of hurt a little bit. But the group projects drastically helped. Taught me how to work with other people.
They didn't push their opinions onto the students.
No.
And I have friends that didn't serve that quit colleges because of the partisan viewpoints that the teachers profess.
Yes.
Unnecessarily.
Absolutely.
UT doesn't have that problem.
No.
And with 20 people to a classroom, you get that intimate. I don't know. I tell everybody to go to University of Tampa. That's just me, though.
That's awesome.
Just go.
Yes.
Just do it. If you're going for business, go to University of Tampa.
I would tell you, what helped me believe it or not, and the reason why I stay positive is because I find the things that I boiled it down to the things that I wanted to do that makes me happy, and I did that. I quit listening to other people's opinions, and I started following my own. Right? I knew that I promised my my fellow Marines and people that I serve with that I will definitely give back when I got out, and then I promised the veterans that I was able to go to school with. I'm gonna continue to try to help and give back and do what I can for them, and I set myself up to accomplish those things one step at a time. I have what's called a wall of inspiration in my office.
It's brilliant.
That's what I call it, right? And when people walk in, they see it's like full of my awards and stuff from the military. One side is the military, one side is the
because he has a lot of
right?
rewards. Has a lot of awards, ladies and gentlemen.
Like, I don't put it up there for the factor so that they can see, like, oh man, this guy's real accomplished. Some people need that, by the way, and that's part of the reason I do it. But it shows a process, right? That's about an 18-year journey, is what I call it, right? Finding out where I wanted to go, and finding out what I needed to do to get there, and I followed that pathway and I did it one step at a time, right? You're not going to get out and find this dream job and start off on top. It's very rare. I mean, it's very rare that happens. You have to be willing to understand it's a process. All great things take time. And I realized that. So I didn't try to rush things. I went and
that's the key.
Step by step, right? One of the things my bishop told me was, you remember this, he told me, he said, dig the ditches and let God worry about the rain.
I wrote about that.
Yeah.
I had a whole title of my thing, and I quoted you in it. I quoted you in it.
Yeah, and that right there changed. It meant so much, because you change the things you have control to change, and the things you can't change, let them be. Right. Prepare yourself for what's to come. And now I work a job that I thoroughly enjoy doing. I know I can make more money out there. I know that I get the offers consistently.
It'll come.
I don't want that, because I enjoy getting up every morning and coming to work. With the exception of driving into traffic here is absolutely horrible. But once I get to work,
audiobooks.
Yeah. People every day, believe it or not, it's like I want to say every other day, at least every other day, sometimes every day, people ask me, why are you so happy?
I've asked that question.
I thoroughly enjoy what I do. I thoroughly enjoy changing lives of my fellow veterans.
But you're also in a good place with yourself.
Absolutely.
And you weren't always.
No.
I mean,
no,
he's told me the stories of his he calls them anger issues. I couldn't imagine if he had any, but being a Marine and the fact that you would smile and strike fear into the hearts of your Marines, I'm going to go with it. But all right, so tell us a little bit about your job here at Hillsborough Community College and as a veteran academic advisor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so in essence, one of the things I love about them is they wanted to create a one-stop shop for veterans, right? A place where they can go for their admissions needs, their benefits needs, and their academic advising needs, along with their financial needs. And they created that at HCC. So I'm the Veterans Academic Advisor, so I do the school side, right? The class side, right? Help them stay on the pathway to success in regards to their degrees, help them find the right degree to something.
Have you learned a lot from this?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, we're getting there.
Is it reinforcing everything you learned in college or make it even better?
Yes, it does. I'm able to use a lot of what I learned in college to help my fellow veterans, especially with the transitioning aspect, but the academic side tremendously. So I do that side. Tim does my buddy Tim and everything. He does the certifying and benefit side. And so we're like a two-man combination thing right there. And we just hired a new advisor as well. But part of what, in essence, we really do up there, and it's outside of the job description, is we both want to be there to mentor the veterans who come through. Because we know they're going to hit that. We know they're going to hit that wall. And I make sure I let them know when they first come in. You see them with the confidence, like, yeah, I got this. I always tell them when I see that, I say, listen, when you hit that wall, because you will, and they sit there and look right across from me like, what are you talking about? I say, when you hit it, come back here and talk to me, right? Come back and know that you're not alone.
How many have come back?
Oh, every single one. Every single one come back, and I can see it in their face. Some of them don't want to admit it, but I can see it. That's what they're back here for. And I remind them, like, yo, you got this, man. You made it through boot camp. You made it through, deployments, right? You made it through all these scenarios, and you've overcome them. Anything you set your mind to, you accomplish, right? And they say, yeah. I said, set your mind to accomplish in school. You got that. I said, think about it. You're in an air-conditioned room instead of out there in the heat. You're eating this food here, and it's not MREs, right? And I said at the same time, realize, like, this. The hardest thing is we have to realize they have to get to a point where they realize they have help. And I make sure they know it every single time, right? I'll see them walking about on the campus. Hey, I'll stop them just to harass them a little bit, let them know. And I'm so crazy and silly. They all know me. I'll see them halfway across. Hey, you in the yellow shirt.
We can't even walk through campus without him stopping and talking with like 15 people. And now I know how other people feel with me. Yeah, so it's just
I bother them enough to let them, because like I needed to know that people cared about me.
Yeah.
Right. Andy and Beth did that. I'm telling you, I love them to their heart. That's my family. Oh my goodness, they're some of the craziest people you ever want to meet. Yes, if you ever get a chance to, Andy and Beth, meet them. But like they taught me those. They helped me to understand that I needed help, and I needed somebody. I need to know I'm cared about as well, just as well as they do. And because I knew I needed it, I knew my fellow vets needed it. I won't say it to them sometimes, but I'll just make sure that they know I'm here for you. I got you. Right? I'm not a hugger. So if I ever give you a hug,
I'm a hugger.
I know.
He had no choice.
So like, if I hug you, that like it's something special, and I make sure, and I realize I have to get out of that so that I can make sure they understand and embrace that love. So part of what I do, the most valuable thing I do there, is help them understand that we're here to help them, and you're not going to do this alone. I'm not going to let you do it alone. I see them trying to quit. Well, tell me why you quit. we need to figure this out because you're not going to quit just to quit. Now, if you quit because you found something better, you found your purpose, cool, right? I want you to find what you want to do, but don't quit just because you think that you can't make it through this.
Yes.
Because yes, we can. I make sure every one of them know.
You're also a veteran entrepreneur as well.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Vetpreneur, as Carlos Romero has coined it, Vetpreneur. It's taken off, man. It's really taken off. He has a whole brand built around it, and it's going places.
It's mine. I tell you what, it's a slow process. Believe it or not, I consider myself a successful entrepreneur because I failed.
A lot,
right? And believe it or not, like that's one of the things I love about Operation Startup, right? And in they'll tell you from Jump Street. They're not here to help you grow your business. They're here to help you save money and learn what you really need to be doing, right? Throughout the course of going through the program at HCC, the entrepreneurship program there, and then of course taking part in helping out with OPSU, I learned that I learned the why, right? Beth Curley used to frustrate the heck out of me with this question, right? She'd say, why? And I appreciate it so much now because it helped me to come here to HCC and do what I'm doing, right? I had to boil down to what is the basic purpose of what I'm doing. And it all boiled down to I wanted to help my fellow veterans succeed and stay off the streets and keep from becoming one of the 22, right? That was my basic thing that I wanted to do. So then I had to build on top of that. Now, what do you do to help to accomplish that goal, right? And that's what I'm doing. That's where I am right now. So I always say, get to the point of why you want to do what you want to do and it'll help you figure out your purpose, man. So.
Talk a little bit about the veteran entrepreneurship community here in Tampa.
Oh, my goodness.
I know, game changer.
Listen, I had no idea. I'm going to tell you, it is amazing in my estimation. It is amazing. I know some people have the reservation. It is amazing. Veterans Florida is just simply awesome.
Absolutely.
They have, of course, like I said, Operation Startup. They're simply awesome. And it's like we're getting more and more veterans. One of the things I love about vets, I'm going to tell you, I love vets. Listen, I'm going to tell you something about us. We have leadership experience that is out of this world, right? We have the ability to do the impossible, which is why we're the greatest fighting force in America, or in the world. Let's say America, in the world, right? Marines in America, but in the world collectively. So we have all this skill, right? All this leadership experience. And because we have the ability to adapt and overcome, we can do anything we want. So any veteran who decides to become an entrepreneur is like simply awesome because being an entrepreneur just in general in civilian lifestyle, because I use that term civilian, right? That's the peak of civilian existence. Owning your own company, right? Being able to do that successfully. Mm-hmm. We're veterans going from transitioning from a completely different world to jumping straight up here instead of going through this. No, we want to jump. We don't want to work for nobody. Straight up here. Any veteran who decides to do that, that is one of the most complicated and hardest things to do already, let alone do while you're transitioning. And it's like being dropped in China. There's some people who speak Chinese, but you don't know anything about the culture. And now you're going to becoming one of the top people. It's like one of them scenarios. So that's why I have so much respect for you, my man.
No, thank you.
To be honest with you, right? I love this man because you went from being a Marine to becoming an entrepreneur in what, 2, 3, 4 years, if that?
I mean, I started a business coming out of the Marine Corps.
Okay, so 0 time.
Yeah.
Jumped to
I don't know how to
just
just stop, so I just went for it.
That's
why I got out of the Marine Corps.
Goodness.
And I was like, if I'm going to get out of the Marine Corps, I may as well do it,
Yeah.
I failed 4 times, but something stuck. So it's coming.
You learned, and you're succeeding. I mean, that's why I say, like, veterans who are starting their own company, it is an aberration and almost impossible to start out successfully and become successful in our situation, right? Where we come from, right? Having to learn not only how to be a civilian, but let alone a entrepreneur in the civilian world,
and not self-destruct.
Because
that was my biggest issue in this whole last year.
Yeah.
I've literally just put 2 and 2 together because how I always talked about retrospective thinking, introspective thinking.
Absolutely.
And I realized that I was calling it a life internship, where instead of going to get a job and this and that, I just immersed myself around people doing the things I wanted to do and try to bring value.
Yes.
What I learned is that the reason my ventures failed is I couldn't do sales. I couldn't close a deal. I couldn't take people's money. I didn't have the confidence. I didn't feel like I was worthy. Blah blah blah. So this whole last year was a sales internship.
Yes.
And I helped other businesses grow, so that I can learn how to finally successfully grow another business. And that's why at this point, right now, as we're sitting here, I'm ready to take Vetting America to the next level because I now am ready to do what it is that I wanted to do the last 4 years.
I would say Entrepreneurship, I think, is the key to helping veterans transition.
It's
the process,
serious.
right? You're learning how to do something all over again to some degree, and that's one of the most valuable things I learned from the HCC Entrepreneurship program. It forced me to interact with civilians. Forced me to. I didn't have no choice. I had to communicate with them, and if I use my military jargon, they tell me, "What are you talking about?" So I had to learn how to explain it to them in such a way that they can understand and comprehend it. I had to learn how to be people-friendly, because you got that stern face, you're not going to make it one sale. No. They're going to run away from you. They're going to scare you. You're going to scare them, right? So I had to learn how to communicate and change my facial expression, my body language, everything to
and believe it.
Yes.
Because people can see right through fakeness now.
Right? Yeah.
We had to convince ourselves we were happy. We had to convince ourselves we were great, you know, and how crazy.
Yeah,
you know?
I hope I'm not messing up the mind. It's, you know what? It's a path. It's a journey.
It is.
Right?
It is.
And I would say embrace the journey, right? I do want to make sure I say this. For the veterans out there that are struggling and going through a hard time, right? Don't look at it as you are a loser. You're not, right? I'm a firm believer that you go through what you go through so you can help somebody else who's going to go through it, right?
100%.
Can't nobody who's never served in the Marine Corps tell me about how to be a Marine. Can't do it.
Sorry.
Can't do it.
My dad told me stories my whole life about the Marine Corps boot camp and all that.
Yeah.
And then I got there, and what did I get myself into?
Yeah.
So
right? Yeah, like in essence, nobody can tell you how to do that. Like,
but just like we can't tell someone how to be a nurse. We can't tell someone how to be a doctor, and that's what makes
unless you're a nurse or a doctor.
Exactly, and that's what makes human beings and human nature and communities so powerful.
Yeah.
So immerse yourself. You know, bring your.
But yeah. It's like it makes you laugh, but at the same time, like it's so serious because. They go through these struggles. Some of them end up homeless. Like I'm saying, if you don't know this man's story, research his story, right? But you got like me. I had my own struggles, and I had to get to a point where I realized, because I thought I was a failure for a long time, and I thought that like I'm not doing anything right.
Yep.
And that was my journey in regards to them. I completely jumped off of it, but I realized that here I am, this hotshot. With the magna cum laude degree from UT, became the management student of the year there, the business student of the year at HCC, graduated with high honors, got my certificate in entrepreneurship with honors, right? And yet I'm struggling to find a job.
Yep.
Right? How is that humanly possible? And I realized I had to go through that because I'm going to run into another veteran who's in the same boat. And how can I help them get through it or explain it to them how it feels if I never walked in those shoes? Right? And I had to go through that, so I embraced that and I accepted it. And I knew I'm going to find a job because this is only a matter of time. I done dug the ditches. The rain is coming for this to grow. And lo and behold,
it's sprinkling.
It's
starting to sprinkle.
It was sprinkling. I would tell you, I heard the rumbling, and granted, I was getting dry.
You could feel like the temperature change, and
it started going, and all of a sudden, I had got to a point, and I don't think I told you this right here. It makes me laugh. When the opportunity finally came for HCC, right? I had made a promise to myself, and I made a promise to my fellow veterans that I'm going to do something to help my fellow veterans. So the day the job opportunity finally came, and I was...
You created it. You manifested it.
No. This is going to laugh at this. That morning, before I accepted the job for HCC, I had gotten an offer for another job, $15,000 more than what I'm making right here at HCC. $15,000 more. The lady she basically introduced me to everybody and everything. I left, went to my interview with HCC, and they said, okay, you got the job if you want. I said, yes, I want it. I had to call this lady and say, listen, I'm sorry I can't accept that job. Remember, they were already offering $15,000 more. It didn't have nothing to do with veterans, though. Nothing to do with veterans. And she said, well, hold on now. I think we can negotiate this. She's going to offer me more money. And she was already giving me $15,000 more. And I had to make a decision. Am I going to stay true to my word and follow my passion and help out my fellow veterans, or am I going to take this money, right? That's what I'll tell every veteran out there. I'll tell you something. Follow your passion because the money will come.
Money will come.
But if you don't, you'll end up being miserable, making a lot of money. And I would have been miserable because I wouldn't have been helping my fellow vets.
Absolutely not.
Right.
So we're about out of time. I got one question that I always ask at the end. And you've hit on this a couple times throughout the interview. Absolutely. I just want to make it nice and succinct so we can push your message into the audience.
Yes.
If you could give a sage piece of advice to a transitioning military service member, what would it be?
Wow. Whew. Man, how can I put this in words? I'll say this. Be willing to do what it takes in order to get where you want to go. and realize that it's going to take time and it's a process. It's not going to come immediately because all great things take time. But if you're willing to do what it takes, make the changes you need to make to get where you want to go, and you follow your own pathway, you will come out on top. And understand that you are somebody special. Embrace and accept help and go seek it if need be, because we can't get here alone. We were trained in the military to work as a team, to work as a unit. You should not be getting out feeling as if you have to do it alone or the need to do it alone, and don't. Right? And I guess the best advice I can give them, you start feeling like you need to do it alone, you come see me at my office. HEC on Del Mabry campus, I'll remind you of how great you are.
Yes, he will. Yes, he will.
You come on back, I'll make sure I know. I'll make sure you know.
Thank you so much, Desheun.
No,
I want to thank everybody in the crowd. I want to thank everyone at home. And I just want to, thank Anthony Kovic, my producer, for another excellent show at Tampa Post. Our sponsors, Richard McIntyre of McIntyreFirm.com, Chris Chrismistos of Podfest.us, and the incredible Attic Cafe in downtown Tampa. Another beautiful Friday, another amazing episode, another amazing veteran. And thank you all, and I'll see you next week.